west from New Brunswick. Originally he came from New Brunswick. My grandfather did, on my mother's side. During the summer months in the 30s, Laura operated a confectionery known as Sip and Bite at Manitou Beach. Laura passed away in 1959. That's the year I was supposed to go to Iran, but changed my mind. Yeah, she passed away at the age of 62. So,
Yeah. So where approximately was the Sip and Bite at Manitou Beach?
okay, you know where the spot is there, where it says something about fixing your salty surf?
The Salty Surf
I
Motel?
imagine a lot of people read that sign, salty surf, and wonder what the heck a salty surf is. You know, is it the lake, or is it just the surf, or is it the lake, or
Or the motel?
what the heck is it? It's a hairdresser, isn't it?
It's a motel, and she does massage therapy and fingernails and sun
Yeah.
tanning.
Wouldn't she do more business if she put a sign up which said that?
I don't know. But that's where the Sip and Bite was, on that
Yeah,
area?
right there on that corner where the building is, like, I don't know how it is, I don't know where their office is now, but right there,
On the corner?
the first building you see of, there used to be an east door, you walk in there, and that's where their little office was if you were going to go in for hairdressing do. But I think it's farther in the back now, isn't it? For their office, for if you
Yeah,
go in
the
for,
office is further back in the middle of the hotel.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that's the first little building where the sign says Salty Surf. That's where my mom's booth was.
Oh, excellent. And was that close to the police station or the police cells?
Actually, the police station right behind my mother's booth, there was just a little her backyard for her little restaurant was right there. That's where the truck would drive in to unload pop bottles and new pop and stuff like that. And then just past there, there's a fence. There was a little fence here, just a low fence. And from there, you go to the next building, and that was a building that was a building where the village used to keep their tools and lawnmower and things.
Or was that sort of where the condos are now?
Yes. You do run into the condos
Okay.
right there. Yes.
And you have memories of your dad as a policeman down at Manitou Beach?
Mentioning him being, that's a good one. Mentioning him being the policeman, you see. So he was, yeah, oh God, yes. There was, one night somebody came down to I should say, you see, the village owned this, here's our booth, our confectionery here, then this little patch of backyard where they'd drive in and unload bottles and load up the empties, and then over this little fence, there'd likely be a little alleyway here, narrow, because not too much cars driving around. And then this building where the village owned, where they kept their little kind of hose fire truck and a couple and an old truck and a couple of other kind of wagons for things and quite a few tools right there. And in the corner of that building was a bedroom right there. And while my dad was the policeman, the village, you see, gave us that bedroom to sleep in. And then just past the bedroom, there's the cell. There's a heavy door, you know, and 3 bars, I think it was, on a small window, and right in there, that's the cell. If anybody was thrown in the cell, it's right next door to the bedroom. And so anyway, one night, way back in about maybe 1931, some guy come down to we just gone to bed, 12 o'clock, maybe 12:30, and some guy rapped on the door. Hey, policeman in there? Yep. Okay, you're wanted. Down at such and such a place, I forget where it was. Anyway, there's a guy making disturbance down there, and he's plastered. And he's causing trouble. You gotta come down and do something about it. So my dad put his jacket on and his hat, and down to that place he went. I don't know whose place it was, because this is a long time ago, see. And here was this guy. I thought he could get away with just about anything. He was doing a little cussing and bossing people around and pushing people around, and he was quite plastered. So my dad just took hold of him and brought his arm up behind his back and marched him out of that building, out to his old car, old Model T, and took him to the police station and marched him right into that cell. Now you go to sleep, see. So this guy, he's pretty mad that he get thrown in jail. That's a terrible thing to happen to the lieutenant governor's son, you know. And he says, you just wait, you're going to be in trouble, Mr. Policeman. You're going to be in trouble. Why? Well, he says, when the lieutenant governor hears about this, you're going to be in trouble. Lieutenant Governor Monroe hears about this. Monroe will hear about this, and he says, you're going to be in trouble. My dad says, well, I can hardly wait.
Because Monroe actually had a cottage at Manitou Beach, didn't he? Down at the east end.
Yeah. Well, this one was at the west end.
Oh, so we had two cottages.
Down close where the tennis court is.
Yes. Sorry, I've got my east and west mixed up. Yeah,
So
down by
anyway,
the tennis courts, you're right.
He didn't get to sleep in his cottage that night anyway. So anyway, he was pretty ticked off that he got thrown in jail, and so he made him a racket all night until way on, about 4 o'clock anyway. He took his cup, he's supposed to just have a drinking cup in there, you know. He rattled that against the bars on the door, and he says, boy, he says, I sure feel sorry for that wife of yours in that bedroom there to have to put up with this. I apologize to her, but he says, you're sure not going to sleep, Mr. Policeman. And he rattled that cup for about 3 or 4 hours.
So your dad obviously didn't take the cup away.
No. You should have thought of that, eh?
Was there much bootlegging in those days at Manitou Beach or Watrous?
Bootlegging?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yeah. 27 in 1 year. They were not all at the same time, mind you.
As in 27 arrests or 27 individual bootlegging?
Individuals.
Making their own booze?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a lot.
They weren't all making their own booze, but
Selling it?
just buying it and selling it for extra. And sometimes on Saturday night they charged double the price, and because it was harder to buy that stuff, you know. That's the same as when we were in the hotel business. I kind of enjoyed running that business, and you had the authority to tell them that they couldn't have any more because they had enough, maybe, you know, 4 or 5 glasses of beer before supper was too much even for some people. So when it would come to maybe 4 glasses, you say, oh, you had enough tonight, and hardly anybody ever argued about it, you know, unless they were come in half tight in the first place. But you have the authority to tell them that, and that's the way it's supposed to be run all the time. And it used to be done that way, and the trouble is that this kind of government that we have there in Regina now, they give a liquor license just about to any pizza joint that even asks for a liquor license, to the point where these joints got to sell a lot of beer and drinks in order to make a living because there's too many places selling it.
Right.
And in order to make a living out of it, they have to sell more than what their share would be. Otherwise, they'd have to get into another business. They'd go out of business. And that's why more people get killed now in car accidents, because the people that run these fancy places, who must have some pull with the government, lets them have a license, and then when there gets to be too many of them, then they sell too much to a lot of customers.
Yeah.
And when we were in the hotel business, once you decided somebody had 4 or 5 glasses of beer, that was enough, and okay, away they go. And I liked that because there was only one other place in town they could go to. That would be Mike's hotel, and Mike had the same system, and he would know that they got cut off at Burke's place. There's no use going to Mike's place because he wasn't going to serve them either. And but now, you see, in a town of this size, there's likely a half a dozen places they can go to.
Right. So did you enjoy being a policeman's son?
Pardon me?
Did you enjoy being the son of a policeman?
Oh, yeah,
Did you get away with anything?
I suppose.
Did you get teased by the other kids?
No.
No. But you must have had the run of Manitou Beach if you were down there every summer during the 1930s.
Oh, yeah, I knew the place pretty well.
So what sort of adventures did you get up to?
Well,
Or are you not going to share?
I wasn't an adventurous person. You see. Oh, golly.
Because you would have just been a little boy, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
In
Oh, God, where's that one picture I just actually brought up from downstairs? I thought of one picture I should bring up from downstairs about just before you girls came.
Oh. How are you doing with battery?
I'm doing okay with battery. Yeah, still have
So I went
battery
down.
power. You're still recording?
I have 47
I
minutes
went down
left.
and got it. That was that one. You already looked at that one.
Oh, yes.
But I wondered when Alice and I were looking through a box of pictures the other day, why I never run across one of these. And this one isn't very clear, but we were talking about the very subject of it when I was a little kid. So when I went downstairs this last time, I ran across this one. It isn't very clear, but that's me there. And I bet you I'm only about 6 there. And see Dance Land in the background there?
Yes, that was definitely the 1930s.
That would be in just out in front of my mom's booth.
Oh, the
you
sip
see.
and bite.
Yeah, and then I'll bring.
Do
them
you
over
have a
to-
picture of her place?
of the booth?
Mm-hmm.
Well, kind of.
Yeah, there is one in Prairie Reflections.
Alice and I were looking at this one. I'll bet your dad is in that. See, that's in the very early days too. That band going out in this boat. It was Waters Band sailing up Lake Manitou, Waters Sask. And I looked at him. I said, well, for heaven's sakes, I said, there he is, right there. That's my dad right there.
And talking of Alice, how did you and Alice meet?
How did she and me?
How
myself?
did you and Alice meet?
Oh, she just saw me and fell in love with me.
Oh,
Well, you would have to ask her. And that's me there, believe it or not.
yes.
And at that time, I had curls.
Yeah. And Alice was a school teacher, is that right?
Yeah, she came
Here in
here in
Montrose?
1957
To Watrous.
to teach school, came to Watrous, and she had taught just at a couple other towns before she came here. And she came here, and in '57, and she just said, "This is it. This is where I gotta stay." That's what I was telling you an hour ago. You know, it used to be. In years gone by, I was only going back 20 years, but I said 10 or 20 years. There you go. You come to this town and you really like it, you know, and if you try to get acquainted with people, you get acquainted with people. You talk to people and you get to know people, and that's the way it's been since 1908. But not in the last 10 years. It's different.
So where did Alice grow up? Where did she come from?
Pondex. That's down 40 miles south of Swift Current. We've talked about that one. It's 40 miles south, and then 10 miles east, and that's Pondex. That's a town of only about 800 people. And likely one of the biggest Catholic churches in Saskatchewan. And the reason for that was, a little side story, they thought when that town was being started and the church was being built, whatever they have at the head of their church, it's a bishop, I think, does every constituency, what do they call their constituencies, I wonder?
The diocese.
Diocese. Anyway, the head guy, I guess I think it's a bishop, that's at the head of each diocese. They thought he was going to live in Pondex. That was the plan. And also, there would be a big house for him. And that was the plan, but they went ahead and built the church thinking that. And then they found out that Gravelburg, it was only 70 miles away, and it was going to be a bigger town by a long shot. And they got that, they changed their mind, and they said, "Oh no, we'll make the big, our main church will be at Gravelburg." But they thought it was going to be at Pondex. So if you go to Pondex, that's the first building you see when you're way out in the country and you're driving in. That's the first building you see because it's that big church. That's why it got there. So.
So did you go to the Watrous, to the red brick schoolhouse right from the beginning, right when you were in grade 1?
Yeah.
It would have been, what year did you start school?
'33, '34? Were you 5 when you started school, or 6? Didn't kids start school at the age of 6 here?
I would have started myself.
Mm-hmm.
I always figured 34 or 35. 35, I think.
Do you remember your first teacher?
Oh yeah, Miss Aitchison. Poor memory. It's just,
Yeah, that was a beautiful building, that school.
ah,
It must have seemed big for a little tyke.
Yeah. Of course, when we started, it was cottage schools, you see. There was two little ones, a grade 1 and grade 2. You didn't go into the big brick schoolhouse till you were going into grade 3.
And then all the way through.
Yeah.
Right.
And then the old cottage schools, the two cottage schools that were on the east side of the highway, or at least Main Street, the two cottage schools were actually on the west side, just a little ways from the big brick school. They tore them down and built across the road, pretty well exactly east of that brick schoolhouse, and in there they built it. I think there was about 8 rooms in there. Had to be enough to accommodate the two cottage schools, plus a couple of grades over in grade 3 and 4 were always big classes. Mm-hmm. So they were able to divide the classes up a little bit better. So when they opened that big school there, Alice was the vice principal, or principal maybe, for a couple of years. When they built, I think she likely had that in here when that other school when they did away with the two cottage schools, cottage schools, and built the bigger school.
And when you say the bigger school, you mean the red brick school?
Hey?
And when you talk about the big school, you mean the red brick school?
Yeah.
Not the one that's there now?
No.
No, okay.
The one that's across the road, it'll likely be in her story here.
So she was principal or vice principal for a bit in the school?
Pardon?
Alice was vice principal, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was, if I, yeah, she had been,
We should maybe interview Alice to hear all about the school.
geez, I should get her out here, and then I wouldn't have to look this up.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah,
We
we could
could-
do that another day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Burke was born in August 4, 1928 in Water, Saskatchewan, the third son of Alvin and Laura Burke. He spent all of his life in the Waters, other than 7.5 years working with through Western Canada for the United Geophysical. And this, it was through us with the seismograph crews, where there was 5 of them at one time working in Saskatchewan. They told us at the time, we were working for the oil companies, you see, but we were told after, like years later, that they really had us looking for potash, because they did discover the potash, because wherever they built the potash mines, there was the potash. So it was really the geophysical companies that bought and discovered the potash.
Interesting.
Yes. Now I have to interrupt and say I need to leave. Were you wanting to carry on recording?
Well, Let me just.
Or is this a
turn
timely
this
place
off.
to say, we've done very well today?
Yeah, I'm not. Let's see.
So I'm actually going to turn
There's a
this off.
pause. Okay.
But that was wonderful hearing